This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and here it is again, one of my favorite phones, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold. This time it's the Z Fold 4 for 2022. There are not a lot of changes going on here, but we're going to talk about them now. And for those of you who are still wondering why the Fold exists, this is an iPad mini that folds in half and stows in your pocket like a regular phone. Can your candy bar phone do that? And then conversely, there's the Flip 4. For those of you who don't need a tablet-sized screen, but you want a big screen phone without the big pocket and big hand requirements. So the good news is if you're a Z Fold 3 owner, then you probably won't feel a huge need to upgrade to the Z Fold 4. Okay, you can go grab a beer, come back later maybe. No, but seriously, the only thing is that Samsung always has these crazy, wonderful trade-in offers on phones if you pre-order. So you might be a little bit more tempted. But then again, the price is still $1,799, call it $1,800. So even if you're getting like $900 back in the United States for your Z Fold 3, you're still outlaying a lot of funds, aren't you? Well, there's that. And I know folks in some other countries don't get these crazy, awesome trade-in deals for pre-orders that we do in the United States. All I can say is sorry. Hopefully carriers and holiday sales and stuff will help with that. The big changes are software-based, really, to be honest. And this is something that Samsung could bring to the Fold 3 and maybe even the Fold 2, but they haven't said one way or the other if they will. It's running Android 12L, and my favorite new thing is the multitasking taskbar strip at the bottom. So it takes up a little bit of space, and it's just easy peasy. Anything you want to drag from there, you just drag up on the screen. You want to put in two things side by side, you want to put in a third thing, you want to resize them, suddenly it becomes very usable. It's sort of like when Apple finally improved iPadOS software and made multitasking less of a head-banging experience. It's good stuff here. And if you do have multiple apps running, the taskbar shrinks down really small, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. Another thing that you might get excited about, but get only 3 millimeters excited worth. The outer screen, we all want it to be a bit wider, and some folding phone competitors who don't have nearly the market share still are doing phones that are a bit wider. Granted, harder to hold the wider it gets, but still, we got 3 millimeters of additional width, mostly due to bezel reduction on the outer display, which is still a 6.2-inch, 120 hertz OLED display, and it's nice enough, but it is tall and narrow, and those with fat fingers might have trouble doing things like texting and all that sort of thing. That 3 millimeters doesn't change the experience so much. It looks a little better though. The inside display, the aspect ratio change is really tiny. I don't think anybody's going to notice it. The bezels are ever so slightly smaller. So yeah, it's a little bit less tall, a little bit wider, but it's such a small change you really can't tell. And I have a Fold 3 side by side. I use them both, and the experience is similar. Anyway, that means the pixel dimensions are slightly different, but still really close in size. And again, that's a flexible AMOLED, Super AMOLED, that's what Samsung calls OLED displays. And it's 120 hertz variable refresh as well. And it's a very nice looking screen. It always has been. Now, my only small complaint about that is the flexible plastic screen protector that's on the top layer, which, yes, is removable without destroying the display, unlike the original generation Fold. Because it is plastic, it reflects a little bit more and picks up more fingerprints. But I've noticed that the Fold 4 picks up less fingerprints than my Fold 3, which is appreciated because, yeah, fingerprint magnet, the previous generations of Fold. Also, supposedly the adhesion material is improved for the screen protector on the Flip and the Fold 4th generation both, which means hopefully less of it bubbling up after several months at the crease typically, or even looking sort of like it's cracking. Often it looks like your display cracked and it was only the screen protector. So yeah, you can get Samsung to replace that for free under warranty in the first year, or if you're adventurous, you can order one off Amazon and do it yourself as well. There's that. Anyway, good to see hopeful improvements there in that department. Another improvement is the hinge itself. It's not a wild redesign. The phones look so much alike, I don't think most people would know other than the new colors, which is which. But the hinge feels just like on the Z Flip 4, just sturdy, smoother, firmer in a good way, easier to set it up in that kind of flex mode if you want to, bent on the desktop or using it to take pictures that way. So that's nice as well. Not that the hinges were failing on these phones or anything like that, but it just feels nicer and more easy to control as you open and close it. Inside we have the new Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 processor, which just like with the Flip 4 that I reviewed, you see some improvement in battery life and great thermal improvements, which means the phone doesn't get so hot, especially if you're pushing it hard. You're shooting 4K video for 10 minutes, which you can do without getting really hot, which is nice. Well, maybe if you're in Phoenix, it might get kind of hot because hot place there. Anyway, it's a good improvement. The battery life is a little bit better. Now, one thing that I will say is the Fold 3 had pretty good battery life. You can get through a day and just with moderate use, and definitely need to charge it at night, versus the S22 Ultra, which had power left to spare. So I was always a little, I wish I had that Ultra battery life. The Z Fold 4 gets closer. It's still not Ultra in its power capabilities. You have 4,400 milliamp battery, just like the previous generation. Last improvement is the main camera, which is now 50 megapixels. So no more slumming in the 12 megapixel crowd like the Z Flip 4, or let's face it, the iPhone 13 Pro also still runs on 12 megapixels. So megapixels aren't everything, obviously. Sometimes you can have good camera quality, and Google has done well with pixels in 12 megapixel level. But anyway, we've got a new sensor here. It does pixel binning, so it takes the 50 megapixel, drops it down to a 12 megapixel photo that's supposedly sharper and potentially has the ability to show more light in night scenes because you're combining all those pixels. Night photography is okay. I did some dim indoor lighting shots like a cat, and the main lens was pretty good on it. The 3x zoom lens, not so much. That you really still need good lighting for. So you still have basically your same ultra-wide lens that you had before. The telephoto now goes out to 3x optical zoom, which is good. The 2x was kind of like, it's 2x, almost why bother, right? So that does become more useful. So I took it for a trip to Bodega Bay in California. Beautiful scenery, and I think most normal folks will be happy. If you're a real photography maven and you do pixel peeping and all that sort of thing, probably S22 Ultra is for you, or Pixel 6 Pro, or whatever, you get the idea there. But I think for most people, they're going to be quite happy. Even the 4K video that I shot looks pretty darn nice on this. So yeah, you're spending almost $2,000. You wish you could have the same cameras as the S22 Ultra on this, but there's only so much space while not having the phone get even chunkier than it is. And speaking of that, it's still a chunky, heavy phone. It weighs more than an S22 Ultra or an iPhone 13 Pro Max. And of course, it's double thickness because it folds shut when you're carrying it like a candy bar, and it's fairly tall. So they didn't want to make it any bigger, let's face it. So that's why we can't go farther with the cameras on this phone. Now, the selfie camera on this for the inner display is still an under-display camera, but it's the 2.0 iteration. And boy, did we need an improvement there, because number one, on my Z Fold 3, I sure could see it most of the time. It looks quite whited out. It's harder to see now on the Z Fold 4, which is a welcome thing, because the whole point is to make it disappear, right? You do want it to disappear. It comes closer to that. And the quality, I mean, it's only 4 megapixels. It has improved. There's less hazing over. It really looked like the camera was looking through, well, display layers before. It's not great, but it's better. And then there is the outer selfie camera, which is 10 megapixels and it is noticeably better. So if you're doing your Zoom calls or whatever, even though it's tempting to put it in flex mode because that's really handy, just prop it on your desk, fold it, and videoing. But you got that better quality there. By the way, the crease is still there. It's about the same as last generation. You either have OCD and you can't tolerate it, or you just stop seeing it and you get used to it, which I just got used to it, so it doesn't bother me. Sure, it'd be nice to not have it, but S Pen support is still there. It still uses the special Z Fold Edition pen, slightly different electrical characteristics, so that's the same as last generation. So it is fun because it's nice. It's a big screen, so even trying to draw on an S22 Ultra is like drawing on a postage stamp compared to this, where you can actually get some sketching done. And if you're doing note-taking, more space is always better. And as ever, it's still Wacom EMR technology, which is good stuff. Lastly, it's still IPX8 water resistance, which to me still is just a marvel on folding phones. I don't know how they do that, but they do, mostly by waterproofing the components on the motherboard itself. It's obvious that water could get in through the hinge, so the internals are actually isolated, which is neat. But we still don't have any dust resistance rating, mostly because dust particles could get stuck in the hinge. I haven't had any problems with that. I haven't heard a lot of people complaining about that, but it's something to be mindful of the next time you go, well, to Bodega Bay Beach like we did with it. Don't sit down in the sand with it in your pocket and play. So there you have it, the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4, available in this blue-gray color, black, beige, I think they call it. It's a tan color. And then there's a Samsung exclusive burgundy color, which is like, well, the burgundy color for the S22 Ultra from last year. As ever, it's one of my favorite phones. It's just so much fun if you're a power user. The multitasking has gotten a lot easier. The temperature of the phone has improved. The main camera has gotten a little bit better, so I think people will be pleased by that, even if it's no photographer's fantasy dream kind of level of thing. But it's still a cool phone. Yes, I would have liked to see a wider outer display, maybe even more of a design change. Clearly this year is small iterative tweaks to just try to improve it. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more cool tech videos. Oh, and thumbs up if you like this vid.